Books in Action. This is Larry Petricaro with my co-host Melissa Kopecki, and we're going to talk today about the summer reading program. And we're lucky enough to have with us Keisha Miller from the South Orange Public Library, Emily Witkowski from the Maplewood Public Library, Jane Folger from the Maplewood Public Library, Beth Halliday from the South Orange Public Library, and Michael Pucci from the South Orange Public Library. So many of you probably have some idea what the summer reading program is, but perhaps just to get on an even keel, I'll start by asking Keisha first and then Emily to just give us a brief overview of the summer reading program, reasonably brief, and then we'll go on to some specifics. So let's start with you, Keisha. The summer reading program is?
So the summer reading, thank you, Larry. So the summer reading program is a program that's designed for all ages. Let's be clear about that. And it's a collaborative effort with the school system in terms of creating the summer reading lists, and all three libraries, because Maplewood has the Hilton branch as well as the main branch, along with South Orange. We do programs for all ages and reinforce the importance of reading. And this year, particularly highlighting that there are materials available online through our e-library and other digital platforms as well. So summer reading is a great time for people to catch up on those things they didn't get to read perhaps during the year, although we've had quite some time given this pandemic. But it'll be a nice time for everybody to read things that they haven't read or want to reread things. It's a great time for all ages.
Okay. Emily, you want to add to that, or maybe even be a little, if it's specific, anything is specific to the teen group as opposed to others, you might want to mention that.
Sure, yeah. So I think too, like Keisha said, it's a super collaborative effort between the two towns and with the school district and the public libraries. But this also happens nationwide, right? So this is a national effort really to encourage kids to read over the summer. And to prevent the summer slide, which is sort of the loss of information that happens when you're not in school and not there every day. And it's expanded to be this awesome opportunity for all ages where we have programs and lists for adults and teens and all that sort of stuff. It's always been sort of centered on kids, but we've all expanded to sort of include all age groups. And I think for teens in particular, it's an awesome opportunity for them to read what they want to read as opposed to what they might be assigned to read for school. And that's why we create these lists in collaboration with the school librarians. And in particular, the middle school list is called Choices because it's all about that as your choice, right? And then the programming is really to encourage them to try new things. I know Keisha does a huge volunteering effort through South Orange, and I know everything's going to look a little different this year. And then in Maplewood, we do our Create Camp, which is normally very in-person and hands-on, but we're finding ways to make that virtual. So it's really just an opportunity for people to try new things and do something different.
You know, I'm going to jump in here, Larry, just to say, because you asked about the history of it, and summer reading programs actually did start specifically for kids. And I think the first was like in the 1920s. And it really was, as Emily mentioned, to prevent kids from losing ground, because they found if kids weren't reading or visiting museums or doing, art programs or stuff over the summer, that they actually started the school year in a place behind where they had finished it. So with public libraries taking it on, it became a really nationwide effort to really and reach out to all populations. So it wasn't dependent on money or where you lived, or that it was really an outreach to kids through the summer. And it's wonderful that it has grown and expanded. And I'm done. Back to you, Larry. Thank you.
Well, now I have a question for you, Melissa. You said it started like in the 20s, and it was, as Emily mentioned, an attempt to try to, I guess, minimize the amount of distance between the time where you were when you ended the school year and where you started it, to make sure that you were as close as possible. But did it become nationwide at that point in time, do you know, or was it more like a little bit here, a little bit there, and then something happened to make it nationwide?
Well, okay, I'm going to answer that, but I don't remember all the specifics, although I have read a lot in the past, but I do know some of the big public libraries like New York Public, who were looked to as a model for other places, fully invested in it with their time and resources. And so that's spread it. And I just want to say, I mean, you can't have a better group of people here because we're all librarians. And the best part, we're all public librarians. And we are committed to collaboration and best practices and sharing what we're doing. So, I mean, back when that started, there was still the national and the state level of library associations who shared a lot of information. So we are a sort of business model that allows sharing really good ideas and then personalizing them for our particular communities, which we have done in South Orange and Maplewood brilliantly.
Okay. And Jane, I know that there's a statewide theme, at least there has been in the past. Is that the same this year? And if so, what is this year's theme?
This year's theme is Imagine Your Story. And we're expanding on that in a lot of ways, but I'll tell you who developed that, which is there's a consortium of representatives from public libraries across the United States, CSLP, consortium, actually, you know what, I can't remember, consortium of summer library programs. I think we're, and their mission is to empower libraries to foster community. So it's really, they provide artwork and program ideas and a manual for us to work from. We tend to use that just as a jumping off point. And so this year's theme for libraries across the country is Imagine Your Stories. And for us, we're really thinking about ways, especially in this pandemic, to bring our community together, to use resources from the community to offer as reading incentives, gift certificates from local businesses, to really bring in artists from the community, performers, musicians, and have them do the program. So we're really thinking community through Imagine Your Story.
And Beth, that's the same for you in South Orange, pretty much, or is there like a tweak in South Orange that might be a little different from Maplewood? I think you might be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So this year, unfortunately, we were not able to make our school visit. So I just wanted to take a few steps back and talk about the summer slide, because Jane and I have always explained to the kids what summer slide is, because we bring a prize. Jane brings slime, and Jane pours it out into my hand, and we say, this is what happens to your brain if you don't read over the summer. So unfortunately, we don't have that visual right now, and we aren't able to make the school visits, which is, one of our best marketing ideas. And so we're going to have to think about that in a little bit different way, how to get the word out that summer reading is happening, and it will be different, but it will happen. And, every year the kids at South Orange get to rummage around in the treasure box, and that is not going to happen this year, unfortunately, because we don't want kids touching other people's items. But there will be prizes, and we will also be using the Read Squared online reading program, just like Maplewood. And we'll be doing virtual programs. Every year we do a favorite program is tie-dye. And I know why it's favorite, because people love tie-dye, but they also don't want the mess in their house. And we do it outside. So this year we're going to do something. We are going to do tie-dye, but we're going to use items that will be found at home, vegetables and fruits. And so the dollar store is still open. People can grab a t-shirt, and I think Shanice is going to do a video. It's either going to be live. So there will be programming, and we hope when Governor Murphy says it's appropriate that we can do some programs outside, of course, practicing social distancing.
And Michael, what do you have anything you can add to what you've heard? You're muted, Michael.
Every year, for the past few years, we've done an adult summer reading program. We will have to tweak that a little bit, but maybe not too much. The basic idea will be the same. Read anything you want. Send us your thoughts on it, and you could be entered into a raffle or a drawing for some local prizes. That's been very successful in the past, which is good because I know Maplewood as well, we've just started doing materials pickup. So if you need something interesting to read, other than the same magazines you've had on your table for the past 3 months, this now would be the time to give us a call, and we could set a time for you to pick it up.
Well, with respect to the adult aspect of this, in your experience in South Orange, does a tendency toward fiction, nonfiction? Is it likely to be more about politics this year? Any thoughts about how that might go?
Well, there's no doubt there's a glut of neutrally, can we say, political books. But I don't know if, I don't know, I get the sense maybe some people are tired of that, and they're looking for, especially since the pandemic, they're looking for the escape reads. They're looking for, they don't want anything heavy. And you could turn on the TV for all the politics they could handle. And of course, as the election comes up. So I've noticed in the past, and I'm feeling the summer will be a lot of beach read type stuff and fiction. But of course, we will have all the current events as well.
Okay. On a slight aside, you mentioned beach reading, and I remember seeing a cartoon. It was probably in the New Yorker. This policeman comes up to this guy relaxing on a beach reading a book and says, "I'm sorry, sir, you're under arrest. Dostoevsky is not beach reading." And I've always kind of enjoyed that cartoon. Now this year is going to be obviously a little bit different. I think Jane and Beth, you both alluded to the fact that you have programming. And Jane, I think you mentioned that you were hoping to have artists and people come in. Is that going to be done virtually now, or are we hoping that perhaps sometime toward the end of the summer we'll be able to get people together?
Well, right now, Larry, we're planning it 100% virtual. And what we'll do is most things will be live virtual events on Zoom, just as this will be recorded. But for example, we're going to kick off this Monday with the Turtleback Zoo, and have a docent who will give us, for those people who have not been able to get out, which no one really has, and have really missed the animals there, they'll do a tour of their African adventure, and the docent will tell us about the different animals. And our local baker, the Able Baker, which is a wonderful bakery, is going to do a backstage, behind the scenes kitchen tour, and they'll do that virtually, so people can log in from home and enjoy that, the whole families, as well as story times, which we have been doing. Those we call on demand, so we'll record those and put them on our YouTube channel, and then people can watch them when it's convenient for them. If things do change and we can have people in the building, we're pretty much ready to switch gears and, adapt to that.
Now, Beth, the programs that Jane mentioned, will South Orange be streaming those same programs for the kids, or do you have other things in place?
Well, I just talked about the tie-dye, which we want to do. And we were thinking of doing something around cooking, not having the bakery come in, but I used to do a class live with people there where I would make pizza dough with them. So I'm thinking of doing that, of either filming it or having it live, of me making pizza dough, and then, having them be, giving out ahead of time the ingredients, and they can send me pictures of what their pizza looked like when it was finished. I think we want to do, and Keisha can jump in, an obstacle course outside. And we are doing something about growing grass. I think that's our kickoff.
Okay. Well, we're going to have, we just ran into an obstacle, Beth. We're going to have to take a break. So if you guys can all stay with me, we'll continue this when we get back. So if you'll stay with us, we'll be back in a minute.
It's an onion.
Welcome back to Books in Action. This is Larry Petricaro with Melissa Kopecki and our guests. And I'm going to turn this segment over to Melissa to start, and then we'll continue. So, Melissa?
You know, I just wanted a chance to go back to that theme. When this theme was picked, which was long ago, nobody imagined that Imagine Your Stories would be in such a context of a time with a number of unusual and both heartening and scary contexts. So it is so appropriate a theme for summer reading, and that whole thing Michael was saying about beach reading. All kinds of reading are great, but I think that each library has incorporated something seriously about your story at this time. So I kind of wondered if, Larry, you can direct the question as you like, but I wanted to ask that of all our wonderful guests.
Okay, well, let's start with Keisha. You happen to be in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going clockwise.
Well, thank you. Well, to kind of piggyback on what Melissa was saying, here at South Orange, it was at the 150th anniversary, which we celebrated now 5 years ago, coming up on 5 years, wow, where we incorporated, where we launched Our Stories. So it's been quite appropriate now that we're here to talk about Imagine Your Story. And so we've been encouraging our patrons to share their stories. Now more than ever, it's quite appropriate because people love to share their stories in many different forms. And I think that's something to highlight as well. It's not just about you having a conversation, but you can write your story. You can share your story through art, through poetry, in whatever way you'd like. You know, it's important that you capture your stories, and there are plenty to share. So with that, as much of an imagination as we encourage folks to use, we also want them to be able to share their story, and we'll be doing that this year with SOPL Our Stories, just carrying on that initiative that we started some years ago.
And Emily, how about Maplewood? Are you doing something similar with, and these stories, can they be stories, that personally are yours, or perhaps people you know, friends you know, relatives you know?
Yeah, so for teens, at least in Maplewood, we're doing it a little bit differently, but it's sort of in line with what Keisha was saying. I know the SOMSD school district has been doing a passion project initiative with their students, and it's sort of K through 12, really encouraging students to think about what they're passionate about and what they can do with that. And they've really tapped into the libraries for that as an extension over the summer of how can we connect our kids to local resources. How can we get them excited, let them know where to research, let them know how to find out information. And we're sort of taking the lead on that a little bit of how to connect kids to information. But I also want to let Jane speak a little bit about the children's program, because I know they have some activities linked to the stories aspect of the theme.
Well, Jane, how about that? As far as the children's stories go, what would you be thinking about?
Well, we're looking at it more intergenerationally at Maplewood. We do have a program that's designed to get families doing things together, reading together. So there's an adult, a teen, and a children's component to the program. We want people to be having conversations, talking to each other, talking to their neighbors, talking to their relatives, really finding out what was life like when you were little, or just different things so that we start conversations. We give prizes for reading and for writing. So however you write it, and as they do at South Orange, if you draw your story, if it's an artwork, forms to give kids a way to express themselves.
And Beth, in South Orange, similar to that for the younger children, or do you?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much the same theme of encouraging kids to tell their story, and as Jane said, to like, when we've done this before, we've, Keisha's had her volunteers come in and interview some of the older adults who come into programs, and I think that was really successful, and maybe there'll be something like that this year, Keisha, where the teens are going to be able to participate in interviewing, and we are also collecting stories, and they're going to be archived at the library. It's not just about collecting the story and collecting it, it's actually going to be part of an ongoing project, and it will be something saved so that from years from now, when people look back and they say, gee, what was it like back then? We will actually have an archive of what people were feeling and thinking and talking about.
Well, when it comes to the younger children, are there specific books you might recommend to them that would help them understand what you're getting at?
Yes, both of us have lists.
Go ahead, Jane.
So,
You both have lists.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
thinking of the summer reading list. I mean, we didn't know exactly, we didn't know then, certainly, but it was like a week later that all of this happened. But we are always really careful to choose books that reach a lot of different topics and areas in terms of diversity in our two towns, and in terms of kindness, and looking out for other people. So the book lists are ready, and we're getting the books together, and they're always in a special place in the library, and people can request them because the list will be posted on our website, Maplewood website, and the district's website. I think it's already there, yeah.
And Michael, for adults,
I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. For adults, does this have a slightly different or a similar approach or different approach, or do they participate in this?
Well, yeah, there won't be a proper list as the children's room has. But yes, through the Our Stories initiative that we're doing, and through the summer reading program, we want to hear your voices. I think one of the messages that's come through over the last couple months is we want to hear voices that we haven't always heard from, and the intergenerational aspect of that is very appealing, but also cross-cultural. And by having it on our webpage as a breathing collection, I think that has a lot of resonance as well.
Well, let me switch gears briefly, hopefully briefly, and we'll start again with with Keisha.
Can I,
or whoever
can I
wants
say
to answer it. I just wanted to know what's, now that we're unable to come to the library and sign up or register, how are we handling things like registration and recording of what's been done? How has for people who want to register their kids, they can't do it this way they used to, I presume. So how are we doing that now? Keisha, let me start with you.
Okay, so we traditionally, people will know that they can come into the library to sign up, and I think that's one of the things that the kids look forward to the most is, now school is ending, they're like, oh, I gotta run in to sign up. Well, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we do have to take registration online, and the state library has provided a resource that will be available to all public libraries, and it's their option to use it or not. I understand Maple's using Google Docs, I believe, Google Forms. So we are going to use readsquared.com, and we'll have that information available, and it requires that you sign up or you register to have an account. And it's a little bit layered, but I will say that once you sign up for it, you have an account, choose a password, maybe using your library card number, which is a good thing to remember. Use that password, and then you'll keep track of the books that you're reading. But also we have to think about, not everybody has access to the internet. So now what are they going to do? That's a great way for the businesses that are in town to kind of co-sponsor. And so we'll be having some reading logs that are available, not just at the library during our materials pickup, but also we'll have some available at the local businesses as well. We want to support our businesses. People are itching to get out, and it's nice to see that there's outdoor seating for dining at different places. It'll be nice also to eat that delicious food and grab a reading log while you're at it, so you can keep track of what you're reading. So there'll be two different platforms, or two different ways rather, for you to sign up and keep track of the books that you're reading.
And just
Or
Keisha,
they could use both. I was thinking kids might want the paper list because they love to write that down, so they could get the paper reading log, write it down, and then sit, and when they have a chance, they can add it to the Read Squared list.
so the Read Squares list is one way to register, and then
It's
you
the books
said
that they'll be
also,
reading.
but also you can register through the at different places in town. Did I get that right?
No, I let me clarify. So you would be registering
Yeah.
at the library. So in order to keep track of the things that you're reading, Read Squared is one way you can keep track of the books and using the reading log. But you would register at the library. We will take registration that way. So people can send us an email to register if they'd like. But once they get a reading log, that will be taken as a registration.
We need to give a little time to either Emily or Jane to talk about Maplewood because we're almost out of time. So talk about how your reading log and registration
Yeah,
work.
thank you, Melissa.
Sure, yeah, I could do it real quick. So we're using Google Forms, like Keisha mentioned, and we are trying to simplify it, encourage family participation. So all ages can submit the same registration and prize entry forms. It's a little different for each age group, but it is all in the same place. And then we're also very aware of the fact, like Keisha said, that not every family has access to a device or to the internet. So we are going to have paper forms available at both the Main and Hilton branch libraries that people can fill out and put in our book drops for submission that way.
And okay, and real quick, we only have about a minute left, but Emily, the paper forms will be outside the library, so you just
Outside
have to.
Main and Hilton branch, yep.
Will there be something like that also, Keisha? I didn't. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I meant to clarify that. Yes.
No, okay. Okay. Well, look, thank you. This went faster than I thought, and I got to thank Melissa for paying attention to the time because I completely lost track of it. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm glad that we're able to keep things going in this this unusual time. So thank you all, and thank you for joining us on Books in Action.
Yeah, remember that summer reading is for all generations, especially if you all sit down and read together. Great thing.